Hello, hello, Bobby. How are we doing today? Everyone else, welcome back to the Open Gym Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1. We took a little time off for some summer break, summer plans, and now we're back talking a little bit more about fitness. Bob, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. Summer, you said it best, summer holiday, summer break, sleeping in on Sundays. We do this Sunday morning, or for Nick, Sunday afternoon. And we're ready to roll. Season 2, episode uno.
Episode uno. First and foremost, we really appreciate folks who listen and actually talk to us about this. Bob and I do this for fun just because there's only so much we can do with inside the gym, but we love fitness. We live this lifestyle. We do what we do because we really cherish it, not because it pays the bills and makes us millionaires, although we can hope and dream someday that'll hit. But we like talking about it. So if you like to listen, we appreciate it. If you like to engage with us and ask questions, we love that even more. So for today, episode 1 of the new season, let's talk about fitness fallacies and sort of misconstrued statements or beliefs within the fitness world. Some things that we've seen over the last couple years, couple weeks, couple months that over maybe get blown out of proportion or just taken as total fallacy and shouldn't be followed. Bob, do you have anything that you want to start with? Maybe a statement, belief, or a something that you've read that you just know isn't true, but sometimes is passed around within the fitness world?
Uh, there's so many. Pro, Protein is bad. I'll go with sugar. I think sugar has a big no on it. That sugar is bad for you.
Hmm.
And I think just understanding the different forms of sugar, the processed sugar versus natural sugar, is
Okay.
important. And time and places of when artificial sugar is actually beneficial to you. I
Yeah.
think
So
that's the
before we get
common.
into this, let's talk. What are the fallacies that you've heard? Right. What's the big statement that you read and you're like, God, I just wish people didn't believe this, but this is being pushed either social media or through trainers that don't know better. What's the thing that you read or see that you just think needs to be addressed?
The most are,
Yeah.
oh, we'll go back to bulking up. That if I lift heavy weights, I'm going to get bulky.
Okay.
That is my favorite one.
Okay. So let's go into that. So you've lift weights, we're getting bulky, which is not the case. And why is that?
Impossible, uh, because it has everything to do with what you eat. So
Okay.
I walk into the gym and I'm still eating pizzas and donuts, and nothing's changed on that horizon. And I
Hmm.
start to squat, deadlift, and push heavier. Yeah, I'm going to probably pack on a few pounds of fat because nothing is changing in the other avenue of how to recover, how to support my muscles, and to look like a bodybuilder or a CrossFit athlete, which I think is amazing. And people visualize that, and oh, there's too many muscles, there's this, that, and this. I don't want that, which is totally cool. You are in charge of your body, you get what you want, but you got to work out 6 hours and eat a like thousands of calories,
Hmm.
more than 2 to 3,000 calories a day, and work out 3 to 6 hours a day to look like that. And there's no one coming to you for personal training or joining your class that is working out that much.
Right.
And therefore, you will never look like that unless you quit your job and start taking eating as a job as well.
Right.
And
No,
that
I
is probably, it is one of the things that make me cringe the most. Also, because the more muscle you have on your body, guess what? You're probably going to live longer,
right.
and
Yeah.
vice
No,
versa. The less
muscle
muscle
mass
you
is
have,
important.
you will die sooner.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a morbid way of thinking about it, but that is true. I mean, it's 100% true.
Yeah.
Uh, at a certain age, I think what like 45, 50. I think the fight is just maintaining as much muscle mass on you as possible. Um, and yeah, I agree. There's a belief that you can, oh, I started lifting weights and look, I got bulky. I put on size. Well, yeah, uh, that may happen if you don't change your diet. And I think there's this belief of bulking with like a bulking season or bulking for just lifting weights. But you really need to be conscious of your calorie intake as well. Um, I always stress to my clients, if you like to put on weight and mass and stuff like that, that doesn't give you the leeway of eating crap food. It should be healthy, non-processed foods, um, but just in more amount, right? Just in a slightly higher caloric surplus that doesn't give you the green light to put down donuts and muffins and cake on a regular basis, pizza for dinner 4 times a week. That's just gonna it's gonna lead to some unwanted results. So, uh, what is your recommendation for those that are scared of bulking when lifting weights? Is there a mindset that you would like them to think about, a shift in thought process, something else to think about?
Uh, do it with a professional, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
a strength coach or a nutrition coach or combination, uh, to and to get more education on it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because of what you hear, what you see versus finding the research to back. Oh, lifting weights. Yes, I will probably in the long run change what I look like right now. Uh, and I think there's a catch of you you can look in the mirror and think you are the best, you are number one, and you love the way you look, but at the same time understanding the health benefits from lifting a dumbbell, lifting to generate more muscle mass, because there is a I say there is an S curve, or not, a bell curve of
Mm-hmm.
having a good amount of muscle mass on our body to sit up, get down, to walk around, to be functional and live a long time. I think there is a downside of the end of the bell curve of where working out too much and having too much muscle is probably a detrimental effect. And you see a lot of male bodybuilders who can barely walk nowadays, from all the stress they've put into their body
Mm-hmm.
over the years. And they might have put other things into their body. I'm not sure. Uh, and so it's finding the top of that bell curve and just getting more information. I've never honestly met someone who lifted weights, got stronger, and didn't like it.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
there's a point of the time they were able to spend. I think we go through different stages of life where we have more time to do this, and we might ebb and flow of having more muscle mass at some points in our life than others. But I think generating that base, and I think to be between 20 and 40 and try to get to that highest base we can find within our time constraints is super important. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then just finding ways to manipulate your eating habits to get there.
Yeah. I think there has to be a good conversation with individuals, and I'm going to just say this as a blanket comment because I'm not going to single anyone out. But if you feel as though you are adding mass and adding weight while you are lifting weights, there may need to be a look in the mirror and see what you're doing outside of the gym that may be attributing to that as well. There are calories that may not be accounted for. There may be extra stress in your life that you're not accounting for. It may be poor recovery habits that may be adding on mass that may not necessarily be fat or muscle. It may be water retention from poor sleeping. So there are a lot of things that can attribute to um, added size. But if you are just simply saying that it's the contribution of lifting weights and that addition to your lifestyle that is causing that, I think there needs to be other questions to be asked. And I think Bob nailed it by saying you need to work with a professional so you can see what other avenues may be adding to an unwanted result by this very healthy addition to your lifestyle, right? Like Bob said, I've never met anyone that said, "Oh, I lifted weights, I got stronger, and I just didn't like it. I want to be weaker," right? Like no one says that. So I think there needs to be another, uh, just to analyze another thought process to look at what may be attributing to an unwanted result by an otherwise very healthy addition to your lifestyle. So there it is. You won't get bulky by lifting weights. I've been trying for 15 years, and you need
Yeah.
to eat a lot
Yeah.
of food.
Yeah.
And like
What do you
you
think
hear it all
I've
the
been
time.
doing?
I've been trying
Like,
to get bulky for years. So yeah, you saying that you may not have enough time to work out, but all of a sudden are putting on mass because you're lifting 2 times a week is probably another factor in your lifestyle causing that. Um, but yeah, Bob, let's shift to another topic. You brought up sugar before. Let's talk about sugar. What things have you heard about sugar, and what things do you want people to know about sugar?
it has
Sugar's
its time
terrible,
and
right?
place.
Sugar's
Sugar,
terrible.
it is. It's terrible. You know, it's everywhere. It makes things cheaper and taste good. You're going to look around the store, and things that are higher in sugar tend to, oh, you're a little cheaper than the stuff with less sugar. Uh, and you know, conspiracy theory, our country just pumps sugar into us, so we get fat and have to use our healthcare system and pay out tons of money and be
Woo!
sick and obese. But there's a time and a place, and I think I'm guilty of this growing up. I would have Gatorades for sports, and there would be days where I'm not playing any sports, and I was thirsty, so I would have Gatorade. And that's the time and place where sugar is awful for you. You're sitting down, you're doing nothing, you're watching TV. Sugar is the worst thing for you. And but people take that information and apply it to every aspect of their life. And so they get to the gym, they work out, they have steak and broccoli, and they move on. And they never are able, and they do that for weeks on end, and they might be losing weight, but they're also not getting stronger. They're tired. And when we contract our muscles, we need to replenish the energy we're using, and that's where sugar goes back into our muscles to replenish our glycogen stores, right? We need those glycogen stores to be as high as possible when we're getting ready to perform movements. uh, when if you think about the deadlift, the back squat, those are explosive movements. If you get into Olympic lifting, even more, and you need those short bouts of energy to be fueled all the time when you are lifting. And so that's where having something sugary on hand will help with performance and recovery, but
Mhm.
right after. I know people who think fruit is bad for you because it has sugar, and having to pump out like a bunch of information and education. Like, no, that there's a strong difference between natural sugar, fruits, artificial sugar. However, artificial sugar will get into your bloodstream a lot faster. And so, right
Right.
after a workout, you pounding a Gatorade, and that's why Gatorade is at sporting events. That's why athletes drink Gatorade. There is a purpose. Uh, and so, just I think the biggest that's the biggest fallacy I see in terms of sugar. Absolutely not. When you're sitting down at home or at work, no, don't drink sugar. Don't eat sugar. But when
Right.
it comes to pre or post workout, depending on how you feel, I'd say more post workout wise, sugar is a great way to recover.
Mhm.
Understanding what the sugar is combined with. If we can think about Gatorade, which is just sugar, versus a Snickers bar, which will contain a lot of fat, there's a difference, and there's a time and a place for a Snickers. Don't get me wrong. And I'm dead serious. It's not just something, oh, I like Snickers or a candy bar, so I'm going to eat it. And that's why it's good for me because it's what I want. But in terms of a competitive setting, to get as many calories as fast as you can, but just understanding, all right, it's right after my workout. Let me have this banana. Oh, I don't have a banana, but I have a Gatorade. Drinking that will have a ton of benefits for your recovery and your ability to exercise tomorrow or the next day versus not having it. And
Hmm.
you do have to think about how many calories am I eating per day? Does this fit in? Can I have a banana instead of a Gatorade?
Hmm.
I think that will be a little bit more beneficial, but that's a bigger topic we can go on for days. But in just terms of sugar, uh, sugar has benefits and negative effects, and they change based on when we're using it.
Right. Yeah, I think most people will need to see this, that there's not many absolutes in the fitness world and in life in general, right? Not many. There are a few, but there aren't many. Sugar isn't at all terrible across the board at all times. Like Bob said, it really depends on when you're using it, and you can use it to your advantage to really speed up recovery or aid in performance if you are lacking in some energy before some kind of competition. Um, I always like to urge clients who may need to get into some extra sugar for recovery to get powdered Gatorade. Like Bob said, um, sometimes calorie surplus becomes a problem because you don't really know how much you're taking in. So if you go get a liquid Gatorade from the gas station, it's already preset for you, regardless of what you're buying. You're going to get the calories in that bottle unless you cut it with water. But if you go to Costco or something and get a big powdered tub of Gatorade, you can really measure out uh, the correct amount that will be beneficial for you for the activity that you're partaking in. So that would be my suggestion. If you feel like you're kind of slugging through performances, workouts, if you don't have the energy after a workout because you're just tired, adding in a little sugar may be the benefit that you're looking for, and maybe getting the powdered version so you can monitor the calorie intake would be the correct choice for you. But again, that's just an idea. Uh, Bob, any other
Now
statements,
Let's
ideas?
switch. Well, outside of sugar now, but let's switch this over to you. Do you have a number one fallacy that you hear or like to talk about a lot?
Uh, Not necessarily a fallacy, but just an idea of um, personal progression in the gym. You and I were talking about this before we started recording. A lot of folks that I work with may be feeling like they should advance to a more amateur, intermediate, and medium stressed workout plan rather than really taking a beginner or amateur approach to fitness for a longer period of time and really wringing the towel out of all the benefits that you can get. And I really urge people to stay in the beginner status a little bit longer than they are on a regular basis, right? Some folks come into the gym, they don't know where to start. They look online, they see some big time bodybuilder put out a program. Hey, this is the program that I follow to win the Olympia, or I follow this for the last year and I dropped 20% body fat. You should follow it too. And they're like, oh, cool. I'm going to do that too. It's 6 days a week for 3 hours. Awesome. I'm going to hop on that program. Look what I'm going to look like. It's just not going to happen, right? You start with the basics, stay with the basics, progress slowly. Unless you're in a competition, this is a lifelong endeavor. Um, that would be my suggestion for most people, is to take a step back and to really wring out the progress that you can get on a beginner and amateur program for as long as you can before you move into an intermediate or a more dedicated program. But that would be me. I'm using this because I work with someone who is just dying to use like a 1970s bodybuilder program. And I'm like, dude, you are 52 years old. Stop this nonsense. Your diet is maybe mediocre at best. You're just not going to get the results that you think you're going to get. Take a step back and really make the fitness fit your lifestyle, not necessarily following a really high level program um, and hoping for the results. Do you see that in your gym, in your profession over there, Bob, as far as people kind of trying to jump the gun?
I think a lot of people always want to do and overdo what they're good at, and you hit a plateau very fast, and
Mhm.
they avoid all the things they're not good at, the imbalances. They don't want to think they're uh, bad at something, so they avoid it, and they never get better at it. And then eventually they're going to need it somewhere, whether it's the proprioception, the hand-eye coordination. They're going to need it. I think the honestly the best programming is the one you're most consistent with.
Yeah.
If you can do it 4 to 5 days a week, awesome. If you deadlift really, really heavy and do 30 reps at your max on a Monday and you are shot the rest of the week, it's probably, and you can't work and you don't want to and can't work out because that's so hard. I see that a lot with the expectation of overload progression. It's like, oh man, next week I have to do 5 pounds more. Last week was awful. I'm
Yep.
going to skip the gym. And because they put the pressure on themselves, uh, and the expectation on themselves to have to lift heavier, and that becomes overwhelming over a certain amount of time, no matter how much interaction you have with the coach to say, hey, you just got to go by how you feel and it's okay not to lift heavier. The fact that it's like, oh, this is supposed to be an overload, uh it just messes with the mind. And instead of, hey, and I'm biased because as a pitcher most of my life, and you kind of have to pace yourself when you're pitching. You a starter and a reliever, and some days you feel good, some days you don't, and you have to adjust. So
Right.
mentally, I've taken that preparation into my lifting, and there are days I don't feel good, and I don't give an F what the program on the board says or what's written for me. If I don't feel good, I turn it down a notch. I still do this stuff.
Right.
I just turn it down a notch. And days I feel good, I hit my numbers. And a
Mhm.
lot of people that don't have an athletic background, they come in, they see something on the board, and they probably take their work experience and think, well, the boss wants this, the boss has to get this, so I have to do this. And that becomes overwhelming and stressful. And I think that leads to a lot faster burnout and
Right.
jumping programs, rather than, hey, I don't feel great today, I'm going to tone this down and go from there. So I think the program where we can show up every day and have a little fun. It's not going to be all fun and games. There are points where you got to breathe heavy and not talk, right? And I
Mhm.
don't know how fun that is. I think the fun part is getting stronger, and the fun part is uh, seeing progression. And sometimes seeing progression means I got to take a step back today to get back here tomorrow.
Mhm. It's true. I like it. I have a topic I just thought about, and I think we may have differing opinions on this. So I'm going to toss it out there. All
Yeah,
right.
we can make this a debate show.
We could debate it. Weightlifting belts.
I
Okay.
hate them. Never use them. Well,
Here it comes. All right. The question of the day, and I'm going to pose this question to Bob. Do weightlifting belts make you weaker? And this,
yeah.
I know this is a loaded question. So Bob, go off on this. Do weightlifting belts make you weaker? How do you feel about
The
that statement?
I think full for yes, but it makes your core weaker because you stop using it the proper way.
Mhm.
Uh, I've never seen someone who has everyone I see who uses a belt also has bad form in a deadlift,
Mhm.
and the belt they think masks that position, and it doesn't. And people who use the belt, they have a back injury.
Mhm.
Yay, yay! Guess what the belt does? It stops me from using my back in a deadlift. And guess what I need to do to get stronger? I have to use my back. And if I can't use my back, I can't get stronger. And so how
Mhm.
the fuck am I going to get my back healthier?
I knew it would fire him up. You got to toss
That's
out the
one.
fastballs every once in a while. Yep.
A belt is for people who consistently lift near max weights, and to give their back a break, they use the belt. I see people use belts for conditioning.
Right.
Conditioning. It's like, what has this world come to? And I can preach on this all day. I preach on it all day in every class, and someone who comes up to me. And and my feedback is, if you think you need a belt at this weight, let's go lighter and not use a belt, or let's
Mhm.
go slower. I have never really seen an injury, both personally and for someone else, who has used tempo lifting and gotten hurt. And
Right.
tempo lifting allows me to own every position and get my back. Right, we take the power component out of the movement patterns,
Mhm.
whether it's a back squat or a deadlift or a press, and we turn it into a more, not, it's not isometric, but that control allows you to really create a ton of body awareness at each position. And I think that is the best way to get stronger at the places where you are most scared.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
So
Um,
yes, I hate the belt. Nick, how do you feel about it?
I don't mind the belt. I like it. I've used a belt. Now, this all comes down to, I believe, coaching or teaching requirements to use the belt. Um, I like to warm up, or if I introduce a belt to a client, right, I have them put a belt on and it is loose. It is providing no support at all, but it is teaching a tactile cue of how to brace without a belt. So I could easily take the belt off. They're getting no benefit from the belt, but they're going to continue to squat with that belt so they can feel where to press out in the abdominal core, how to teach the obliques to press out, and how to brace properly as if they're not wearing a belt, right? And when they do wear a belt correctly for bracing, it will be at 90% or above. They won't be wearing it for warm-ups. They won't be wearing it for working sets if it is like 70, 75% for sets of 6. If it's a nice, slow eccentric, they're going to take it down. They're going to make their core work, and they'll take it back up without a belt on. But I like using a belt for teaching purposes, for bracing, tactile cues, and like that. In fact, we're doing a little kettlebell competition in the studio for the next 3 months, and one of the strength factors that we're testing is double kettlebell front squat. And an individual asked me, "Hey, can I put a belt on for this? I feel like I can lift more." I said, "Nope, you will not use a belt for double kettlebell front squats. We are just going to use belts for heavy barbell back squats when they are programmed if we need them." So that is my belief on belts. I use them more as a teaching tool. If you feel comfortable with it at 90% or above, we will use it then. Normally, less than 90%, it is a training cycle, and we are going to focus on all of the other cues that we need to. But that is my belief on belts. I like them. I'll use them when I need to, and they'll continue to be in the gym. I know we disagree on that.
You know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
What's that?
I'm going to wear a belt when I front squat tomorrow and I back squat. It's going to be at light weights. I'm just going to see what it feels like. I am going to make a big joke out of it, and I will give you my feedback.
I like it. I can't wait. I want to hear
I
a
also
nice
have to
debrief on this.
find a belt that fits me.
Yeah, you don't have anyone that do you have some in the gym that you can just throw on?
we ha- I think we have 3,000 belts at our gym. We are the
Ooh,
gym in the
strong.
world with the most belts. I think at some point we decided to get a belt for every member in the gym. And now that I'm coach, I don't let anyone use belts. And so they just sit there.
If you are wondering what Robert thinks of fitness accessories like knee pads or knee straps, belts, and all that, think of those old NFL wide receivers that don't wear gloves or anything. It's just helmet, bare hands, cleats. That's what Bob is. And now you get all these NFL receivers with gloves on, sleeves, visors on the helmet.
Stick them.
Bob would, Bob would be running out there with a punter's helmet, one bar, no gloves. That's the way he views fitness.
I have
Naturalist, purist.
2 accessories. I have gymnastics gloves for your hands, which I don't really use. I just have them.
Mhm.
Uh, and I have a ankle sleeve for rope climbs, which I will use because I don't want to be bloody. And I think that's just it's like an enhanced sweatpant. But I wouldn't call it as an accessory to help me do anything. I don't
That's
believe
fair.
in knee sleeves. yet. I still have both of my natural knees and elbows. Although
Those are
my
those are
next foul,
quickly going.
my next thing,
Yeah.
and I think when people initially get hurt, they run right to the doctor. I
Okay.
think uh, working and resting right away. And I think and this is not every injury. I think if you physically break a bone, yeah, you do need some rest. But if you can function, finding what you can do and moving through small ranges of motion is probably one of the most beneficial things you can do immediately after getting injured versus
Hmm.
resting for 2 weeks, because some injuries are aren't rest injuries, some are.
Right.
uh I went through something last Monday where I hurt my elbow. I couldn't take my shirt off and I couldn't bend it or straighten it out. And I actually thought, I was like, I'm going to need surgery. Like, it's not good. And we're here.
Yeah.
And the pain
Bob's
probably
raising the
went
roof.
from a 9 or 10 on Monday to a 1 or a 2 today.
Hmm.
And probably, I heard it Monday. Tuesday, I was doing elbow exercises. Uh, some ice on Monday, but that was it. Tuesday, elbow exercises. Wednesday, exercises. Thursday, some testing of movements that hurt on Monday,
Hmm.
and the pain had diminished. And by today, it's I don't think about it anymore. And I think the common thing for people is I'm going to go to the doctor, and yeah, I'm going to get an X-ray and MRI. And I think on any person who goes into an MRI is going to find something. We're 30 to 40 years old. You're going to find something in your body. Uh, it's does it affect your way of life? Does it
Hmm.
affect your day to day operations or the end goal of what you really really want? If my arm didn't allow me to throw a baseball, for me that would be an issue. I would like to throw a baseball uh, forever. That is my goal. That might not
Hmm.
be your goal. And so, I don't need surgery if my arm hurts only when I throw a baseball. And I think just giving your body a day or two to chill and then see what you can do, uh, I think is, or getting to a physical therapist first before going to a doctor in our MRI.
Hmm.
There might be a point where the physical therapist is like, we need to see more of what's going on, go get an MRI, uh, or they might be able to help you directly. And so that's one of the fallacies I see out there a lot. It's like, oh, I'm injured, right to the doctor, right away.
Hmm. I can see that. What you said, I'd like to expand on as well is you may be able to train around an injury, right? Like, let's say you hurt yourself on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's starting to feel a little better, but you still don't want to stress it, right? Let's call it an elbow injury, like what you said. Um, you could still train some legs, right? As an injury heals on a limb, you could still train the other limbs. And I kind of want people to understand this. There are some processes going on within the body as a full body mechanism that may occur when you only work legs, even if like it's not a full body exercise, right? Like there are some things that go on with inside the body that we want to continue and maintain for as long of a period of time that just don't happen when we take complete rest off, right? Like when we sit on the couch, we may not stimulate our body at all, and we want to maintain that fitness level to a certain extent. So even if you're able to just do legs, or you're just able to do some air squats, some things will happen within the body that we want to maintain and we want to keep on occurring, even if you're injured, right? So if you're able to move, I strongly urge you to move in a safe pattern that feels good, that provides a good stimulus to a certain extent. If you're in there just to break a little sweat, awesome. If you're there to be able to just walk, awesome. Just if you're able to, I really urge you to continue moving in a smooth, comfortable, pain-free way of life before you go and get an MRI that will find something that you need to think about addressing, right? Like Bob said, if you're 30 or 40, you will have something that shows up on an MRI. I could almost guarantee you. That that's a great idea is to give yourself a beat before going into the serious doctor, unless it is a broken arm or something that is in like inhibiting you from
Yeah.
walking for a
Yeah, I
serious
physically
injury.
can't walk. I
Yeah, that's
physically
a problem.
can't lift my arm. That's a different thing.
I think let's close out on this last one, right? You mentioned it a little bit. Ice versus heat. Let's say someone gets injured. I hear this all the time. Oh, should I ice it? Ice it? Ice it? Should I ice it for the week? Should I ice it for a month? How long should we ice it? When do we bring heat in? What's better for recovery? What have you heard, and what would you suggest to a client if they get a little bump and bruise in class?
Well, I think naturally that there is more science on icing doesn't really help. And if you think about the natural process of the body, we ice because there's swelling. There's swelling to protect the joint. So or the injured trauma area. So if I ice it and the swelling goes down, I'm still injured. And now I have less protection. I think I can do this because the swelling has went down and my elbow can now fully lock out. But if this was a big ball and it restricted me, the restriction is there because physically my body is still injured and I should not be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think when you are immobile in a hospital setting, I think after surgery, there are other reasons that I'm not familiar with why they ice certain areas. I think in terms of natural injuries, we should do our best to stay away from pain relievers because guess what? If this hurts, right? There's a reason this hurts. Something is wrong here. If I take Advil, the pain goes away. Now I think I can use this back to when I was free of injury, and
Right.
I'm currently trying to punch the air. If you'll see this on YouTube, but not on our Spotify, uh, right? There's a reason for it, and we kind of have to let it sit in.
Right.
That's my and I think heating is an activation of an area that's I think it's just a faster way to get loose. Right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
about to go play basketball. I have a tight back. Let's go put on some icy hot or a patch of heat on my back to help loosen up my back so I can move around better. Uh, I'm more inclined to use heat than ice, I'd say. I don't use either, but I'd push, one direction more than the other. Probably I wouldn't. People do that for their knees. That's what uh, knee sleeves are, right? They heat up your knee. They keep it more compressed.
Right.
Uh, and so it's a little more common to heat and go do something versus all right, there cold plunge. It's a thing. It does help with some recovery, but I wouldn't ebb always on. Sometimes ice just might feel good, and that's what you're looking for. Go for it. Just
Right.
know it might not be the best thing for you long term.
Yeah. No, I Bob nailed it right on the head, right? When you injure yourself, there's an inflammation process. It's there to protect the joint or the injured area. That's essentially what icing is doing. Is we also want to stop an overuse of inflammation um, into a joint, and that's all the ice is. It's masking pain. It's slowing down the inflammation process. But as soon as that inflammation process is stopped, we want to kind of recirculate the area with more blood, more nutrients, more oxygen. That's where the healing takes place. So if you think about it, if you keep on icing the same injury over and over and over again, one, you're masking the injury, which you could hurt again because you don't feel it as well. And two, you're actually slowing down the process of healing in the long term because you're slowing down the circulation to that specific area. You're slowing down the inflammation from being taken away from the area. So I do always err on the side of heat if it's after a day or two of the injury. If it happens that day, yeah, ice it, minimize the inflammation, minimize the pain at that point. But afterwards, we need to start getting circulation to that injury so it can help heal itself quicker rather than just slowing everything down and inhibiting you actually just feeling pain. You may be uncomfortable for a little bit, but we want to start that healing process as fast as possible. So that's where the heat would come into play. So
And,
that's a
and
big
don't get
one.
me wrong. If you're sitting there and some part of your body is throbbing, and you know that, all right, I'm going to the doctor in 2 days or later. Yes, if you need a pain reliever, have a pain reliever.
Right.
Post surgery, if you need something for pain short term, yes, but it shouldn't be. I'm gonna eat some Advil and then go work out.
Yeah.
That's where I'd say pain relievers have no place. Right, something is inherently actually wrong with our body if we're always needing to mask pain and then go move.
Yeah. So listen to your body, people. Listen to your body.
Best
That's gonna.
medication. Best medication.
Yep.
Real quick. Uh, Fruits and vegetables.
Hot take.
Boom.
Ooh, sleep, fruits and vegetables. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, but yeah, sleep. Wow, you don't
Sleep.
even have to. You don't have to put it
Just
anywhere. Just close those eyes and lie down,
take a
and
day off
probably
of
don't
work.
and and don't have kids.
Yeah, no, easy fix. Easy fix. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap it up right there. Episode 1, season 2, starting out with some junk that you may hear. We just want to correct some fallacies that we've heard. If you have any other ones and you want us to address them, or you just want to ask our opinion on some things that you've heard, shoot us a message on our Instagram or email, or shoot us a text if you have our numbers, because we're not private people, and that's what we do. We want to help you. So, Bob, what are we doing the rest of this Sunday? Any big plans?
Week 2 NFL.
That's it. Mic drop. That's all we need to hear. Guys, have a good one. We will see you next week.